presentation, his online connection with everyone, and it's very inspirational. And like Nandu Prabhu was saying that, and Abhiram Prabhu and everyone else, let's try to follow in his footsteps and do something for Gomata and the bulls. And everyone will benefit of that, and Rupa will be very happy. I don't know if he's witnessing everything down here now, but you never know. At least Krishna will be very appreciative, and we'll all make lots of nice spiritual advancement in the same way Rupa has done so. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
So we'd like to thank David Rupa for some fond memories of Rupa. Next we'd like to go on Bhakta to give his children to read the Lotus Feet of Rupa.
Vanchakapadurvyascha kripasindivevicha Putitanam bhavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I'll try not to take too much time. My remembrance of what I'm going to say is going to be in two different parts, because I was with Kurma Rupa Prabhu the last, I think, 4 days before he passed. About 4 years ago in Los Angeles, I was in the Didi kitchen preparing an offering for Rukmini Dwarkadish. And I cooked the sabji, and it called for me to offer milk to the deities. So I opened the refrigerator door, I put my hand on the homogenized vitamin D milk to heat it up, and I froze. And I looked at the milk, and I thought, what am I doing? I won't even drink this crap myself. How can I offer this to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So at that point, I started doing some research, also in Prabhupada's writings, going over what Prabhupada's different things he'd said in the Bhagavatam, and started realizing how important, the cow was, and, the quality of what we're, offering Krishna. So I found a Mataji who had cows in Northern California, about 9 hours from Los Angeles. It was perfect timing. She had extra milk. We started getting the milk FedEx down. And I went to my temple president, Sovasarabhu, and told him my idea. The idea was to, in the beginning, try to get enough milk that all the deities' milk sweets will be made by devotee-protected cows. And he said, very nice. He says, very nice, you'd like to do that? Temple's not going to support it. We don't have the money to support it. I said, I'll find all outside sponsors. He says, perfect. He says, we'll back you in that. So I found enough sponsors to do it. The temple was paying about $2.50 per gallon of the homogenized milk, and this milk was going to cost $15 per gallon. $10 per gallon to pay the Mataji, and then about $5 per gallon to ship it down. So I found, by Krishna's arrangement, I found enough sponsors. We started having the milk shipped down, and for the past, it's still going on, so for the past over 4 years now, almost all the deity milk sweets for Rukmini Dwarkadish are made from this milk. And I started thinking, this whole process of doing this really made me get some strong realizations how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has unlimited opulence. He's standing on the altar. To my material sense, he looks like he's not moving, just standing there playing the flute. But if he's actually God and has unlimited opulence, if we do something, however insignificant, to please him, if he just practically imperceptibly moves his little finger, he can give us more opulence than we know what to do with. And so as I kept doing the service, I started having more and more realizations. I started coming across quotes by Srila Prabhupada, like, for example, Prabhupada says, the main reason people don't live long lives in Kali Yuga is because they don't drink large quantities of cow's milk. And then he also, in the purport Balabhadra Prabhu read for class a few days ago, Srila Prabhupada says, foolish people do not understand how one earns He used the word earns happiness by making sure the cow and the bull are happy. So then Kurma Rupa Prabhu in 2013, he wrote an article on his Facebook page called, that most devotees will probably be connected with and remember. It's called "Don't Be a Butcher Bandhu." Don't be a friend of the butcher, condemning the ingestion of milk products that are produced by dairies around the world that are torturing the cows. And so I wrote just a small, history of what, I'd gone through in Los Angeles. And he wrote then saying, yes, this is the spirit. We should do this in all our temples. So when I came to India the first times since that, then in last Kartik, I came with donations for Kurma Rupa Prabhu. I met him for the first time. I started taking different donations out for the cows and spending some time with the cows. And I was also very, struck with his level of dedication. And I also realized that in talking to Kurma Rupa too, and we talked about different things, like shortly after I became in charge of 24-hour kirtan here, so we were talking about making ahimsa mridangas for the 24-hour kirtan party. And he was real eager about helping to assist in that, but he said it was going to be very difficult because especially Keshi, the other workers there, the cows are so much part of the family to actually, take off their skin and make the mridangas would be a difficult thing. But I realized in associating with Kurma and in trying to do more and more service that, he had like an underlying frustration that had built up. I mean, he was, had done everything practically by himself. And of course, that was his nature. He was very self-independent, very qualified, very, very high moral standard, and just, knew what had to be done and would just do it. But there was an underlying frustration that I picked up from him when he was saying that, everybody wants to talk about, cow protection, and how much they love the cows, but, what will they actually do in terms of sacrifice, for the cows? So that was a very good lesson also. So when I started going to him, when he started passing away, we first went over there with some kirtan parties. And I just wanted to mention also that Kirtan Premi played a really significant part in just his own, independently by himself, arranging for kirtan devotees to go out there every day. So I'd really like to thank Kirtan Premi for that. And then I started, I guess, taking off what Devavrata was doing. I started reading Bhagavatam to him. And so I started going out there early in the morning. And I noticed the last, like 3 days, 2 days before he passed, he was it was a very painful condition. And I started thinking, Krishna's going to have him go really quick. Because I was thinking, how could someone who had spent that much, selfless energy, saving and protecting cows from, unbearably suffering conditions on the street, how could Krishna make him suffer for very long? And then, sure enough, I got a call on the last day that he's probably going to leave at any time. So I went over there about 7 a.m. On Ekadasi. And he was very, very different that day. He was very kind of resigned. It almost looked like he was, halfway to where he was going. His eyes were very large, a lot of light. He just had this amazing glow around him. And there was one time, during that time, kirtan was going on, and he was lying back, and all of a sudden, he gave like a half smile. And it's my own speculation, but I really felt that, like, Krishna's, like, there's some interaction with Krishna that's going on. And so, as so many other devotees said, and I also feel pretty insignificant. I think there's also some caregivers here who spent a lot of time and a lot of sacrifice that that didn't get to speak yet. But I really appreciated it. The way he left at the end was very instructive, and his life was so instructive to all of us, to actually, as Samadhiji said, to walk our walk. And this principle of cow protection is so essential to the entire Vedic culture and to our Krishna consciousness movement. And now, I've been doing research in the Prabhupada's writings about cow protection, and there's so many things Prabhupada talks about how important is cow protection. And so hopefully this will, as Abhiram Prabhu very eloquently said, give us inspiration so we can start actually taking some kind of concrete action to establish this phase of an ashram. The modern, we're seeing our modern economy and a global economy crumble around us day by day. And still we have so few thriving farm communities. And, for so many reasons we have to take this seriously now. And this passing of Kurma Rupa should make us double our determination to help band together and do something. Jai Shri Kurma Rupa Prabhu Ki Jai.
Hare, we'd like to thank Bhagavata for some wonderful, sharing his wonderful realizations that he got from Kurma Rupa. Next, we'd like to ask Manjari Devi Dasi to offer serenity at the lotus feet of Kurma Rupa.
Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Such an adorable picture. Kurma Rupa. I'd like to read you a letter that was written by my husband Navayogana. Kurma Rupa was a genuine sadhu, one of the most rare devotees who walked his talk and never deviated from his service. His seva to the abandoned cows and bulls in Vrindavan was unmatched by anyone. To them, he was no less than a savior. Kurma Rupa's life and his passing are proof that one does not become a so-called big devotee by raising his voice or inflating his profile and making followers. He did it by finding a simple way to please his Guru and Krishna and doing it with his heart. Kurma Rupa had a full heart for his cows and Srila Prabhupada. I offer my obeisances to him and am bereaved that I will not see him again. So, this is Navyoga. And he's also speaking something that a quality that resonates so strongly with me in regards to Kurma Rupa was his integrity. His integrity came from his deep love. This deep love was for Srila Prabhupada. And his devotion to Srila Prabhupada was reflected in his love for the cows and his dedication to them. He felt strongly in this regard. One thing that one thing that's not mentioned so much is that, Nandu talked about Kurma Rupa as a teacher. He was such a wonderful teacher that his students now still remember him. And there's been so much complaints about the Gurukul, but I know that his students have spoken strongly in his defense, and they're sure of his love for them and his care for them. May have been strict, but in their eyes, they were rascals. It was justified, and he loved them, and they knew that. I know that he felt strongly about the Gurukul, and he disagreed with the direction that the Gurukul was going, because he felt that Srila Prabhupada wanted our Gurukul to be a training ground for brahmacharis, and that these boys should be trained as brahmacharis, meaning that their spiritual life was foremost, and that they should be trained to develop this. And he felt that the Gurukul was going in the direction of training people for educational qualification, and he left because of that. But when he left, he entered a new phase of his life. But another thing that he began to do then is he began to teach more in the VIHE. And Satyavan was saying how he was such a wonderful teacher. He was doing the VIHE course, and he was a great teacher. I have heard him myself give classes, and it's with such honesty. And he was a wonderful scholar, and he knew he would especially love to teach Upadeshamrita. He was a great scholar. He knew Bhagavad Gita, Upadeshamrita, and he loved Upadeshamrita. And when he taught, it was from his own realization. It was very real, and it made a great impact on his students. And there's one quality. Kurma Rupa was a man's man. Only a woman can say this. Men loved Kurma Rupa. They were attracted to his qualities. But for women, he was kind of, as Devi Shakti said, he was a little sharp sometimes. And so we kept our distance. But as she also said, as time went on, he mellowed. And he became much softer and much more approachable. And especially after he left the Gurukul and had more dealings. And this like progressed. And then when he got sick, it dissipated. It went away, just like Kusha was saying. There was nothing left. And when Kusha and I went to see him, I wasn't really sure how he would be. Kurma Rupa was sometimes like this, sometimes like that. So I wasn't really sure how he would be when we went to see him, when he first came back from the hospital, like 2.5 weeks ago. And it was nighttime, he was in bed, and he just started telling us stories. He was telling us stories of how he became a devotee. And I remember that we had previously worked together years ago, I think it was 2004, because he laid out Mula Prakriti's book. And at that time, he was so happy to help Mula Prakriti with her book. And especially because Gopa Vrindapal was here. And he said he was ever indebted to Gopa Vrindapal. And so that night, he told us the story of why he was ever indebted to Gopa Vrindapal. So he had gotten a Bhagavad Gita, and I think he had even begun to chant Hare Krishna, but he hadn't really been to any temple. And he came to the Seattle temple he had heard about their program, and he came to the Seattle temple. And he thought that, their program, it's a Sunday program, he thought it would be at nighttime. He thought it would be at noon, but it was at 5 o'clock. So he arrived at noon, and the temple was empty. And so he didn't really know what to do. He found out that the feast was at 5, and so he had dropped his wife off, and he had just come alone, so he was going to wait. And so he was wandering around, and he saw a chair in the temple room, and he sat down on it. It was the Vyasasana. And so he was sitting in the Vyasasana, reading. And he said that at one point, some women devotees walked in, and they saw him on the Vyasasana. And they were talking about him, and they were giggling, but they never said anything to him. And finally, one of the male devotees came in, and he didn't even say anything to him. They were just so sensitive. They didn't say, "You're on the Vyasasana." He just said, "Well, why don't you come with me and I'll show you something?" And he took him somewhere else. And he said that the kirtan that night was so beautiful that he even remembers the tune. And I said, "Well, what tune was it?" And he said, it's like, Hare, and then the devotees say, Hare Krishna, 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 like that tune. I'm not very good at it, but that way. It was a repetitive tune, and they were, can you sing it, Dina Bandhu?
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Rama, 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 Hare, yeah, like that. And so he was singing it for us. This is the day after he got back from the hospital getting the cancer diagnosis. And he was laughing. And so he said, then the Sunday feast came. It was time for the feast. And, when he said that when I came to the temple, I wasn't really sure I'd be able to to talk to any Hare Krishnas. He liked the philosophy, read the Gita, but he wasn't really sure whether he'd be able to relate to anyone. And so he got his plate, and he's, how you got your plate and you go and looking for a place to sit. And then this devotee was sitting down, and he saw him, and he says, come. He said, come sit with me. And that was Gopa Vrindapal. And he said that he sat with Gopa Vrindapal, and he talked to him all evening. And Gopa was so friendly, and he made him feel so comfortable. Everything Gopa said was so logical. And it was also, he understood that Krishna consciousness was so natural. It was like the nature of the soul, and he felt that from Gopa. And he said it totally changed his life. And then that evening, he stayed late because he wanted to learn how to offer his food. So he was completely transformed from that talk and from that evening. And he learned how to offer his food to Krishna. And then he left late, and he had to go pick up his wife, who was at her sister's. And they lived somewhere out of town. They had a 15-acre farm. And so he goes to his sister-in-law's house, and his wife is there, and he walks in the door, and he hasn't shaved or anything, but he walked in the door, and they all looked at him, and they said, "Wow, what happened to you?" They could see it. He was transformed. And so he said that from that day on, he was a devotee. And then he and his wife got initiated, and her name was Dasarati. And he said, I asked him what happened to her, and he said, you know, I neglected her, I think, and I'm sorry about that. And he said, but, you know, I made it clear that this would be my life. It was like, in a sense that, you know, he understood that he had a higher calling. And that was the beginning of everything that we know. And you know, his great determination and his great integrity. He had chosen this path. He had surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, and this was his life. And so, anyway, I guess this is. Oh, and then he told us when he first came to Vrindavan. So he came to Vrindavan in 1978 for the first time. And he said that he came with a number of devotees, and he's coming, they all took a bus, and there wasn't enough seats, so he was sitting on the floor of the bus. And from the floor, the only thing that he could see through the windows were the trees. And so his first view of Vrindavan were all the parrots and the peacocks. You know, 1978, there were a lot more then. And so he was seeing that, and then they arrived at the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and they opened the door and he got out. And the first thing he saw was a bullock cart with two very beautiful white bullocks. And he said that when he looked at Vrindavan and he was looking around and looking at the bullocks, he said, I know this place. I've been here before. So that was his first impression. So anyway, the other devotees have told so many things. So thank you very much.
We'd like to thank Manjari Devi Dasi for revealing how Rupa became a devotee, and we're ever indebted to Rupa. Next, I'd like to ask Muridhar, who all the way from England, to see Rupa if he arrived in time to see. So Muridhar, you want to come and make your offering at the Lotus feet of Rupa.
Vanchakalpatrayugacha, Kripasinnidevacha, Patitanam Pavanidro, Vaishnave Namo Namaha. I became friends with Kumarupa at the Gurukul, and I was very much aware of the responsibility that he carried for all the children. And my relationship was with him. He revealed his mind a lot to me about the obstacles and so forth and so forth. And then I going forward now to March this year, and one way or another it came up, we talking about dying, and I said, when I gonna die, I wanna, if I'm able, I wanna read out a poem. And I read it out to him, and he said, wow, this is my mood as well. And another thing that maybe you might not know, that he confided in me, and he said as well, don't tell anybody. He went to bed at 7 o'clock in the evening, and he got up again at 11, and he chanted over 100 rounds every day. I don't know if you know that, but anyhow. So I like to read out this poem. And I never had a chance to check it with him when he was lying there dying, because it went very fast, as all of you know. So I like to read out this poem. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bound low. Remember the love we once had shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each one must go alone. It is all part of the Master's plan, the step on the road to home. When you're lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we know. Bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go. Kuma Rupa Prabhu Ki Jai.
So we thank Prabhu for a very beautiful, appropriate poem. We'd like to ask Umi Mati Prabhu if you'd like to make this offering for those of you who are
पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. What a wonderful way to live this world. He has set an example for everybody, all of us to follow. It was Vrindavan Dham, Purushottam month, Ekadasi day, morning time, surrounded by devotees doing kirtan and surrounded by the cows in Goshala. What more can we expect? I know Kurma Rupa Prabhu ever since he came to Vrindavan in 1984-85, as Hamsurupa Prabhu was saying. From that time, in the beginning he looked a little bit grave and serious always, but later on as the time passed, he mellowed down and we became good friends because I was working with Pundarik Prabhu, Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now he is in Alachua. We were a good team, and Kurma Rupa Prabhu was helping us in our book publication. Apart from his service to Srila Prabhupada in the Gurukul teaching and his cows, he had another aspect that was his scholarly activities, like he was editing books, he was proofreading, he was laying out, he was also doing the cover design. In fact, when we translated our books, I would like to offer our heartfelt thanks from myself and also on behalf of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, because the help he has extended to us in publishing and printing our books, like he has layout and cover design for our book Kalki Puran, and also the life and teachings of the four Acharyas. He has also cover designed and layout of our Chaitanya Bhagavad Madhya Leela Part 1, also Madhya Leela Part 3, Anta Leela Part 1, Anta Leela Part 2, Prema Pradeep by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Sri Krishna Samhita by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Brahmana Vaishnav by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Navadip Dham Mahatma by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. All these books and many other books he has laid out, did the cover design and edited, help in editing, and so many other ways he has been helping. We are good friends in the beginning. We used to go different places for darshan with Dhruva Maharaj. Actually, at that time, Dhruva Maharaj was writing his book, Vrindavan Dham Ki Joy, and he needed pictures to put in his books. So we used to go different places to take pictures, like in Vrindavan and outside Vrindavan, like Karauli and all, maybe Mansarupa would also know. So like that, we are good friends and everything. And about 10 days ago, I met him here when he was in Food for Life guest house here. I went to see him, and he was lying on the bed, I offered my obeisances. He immediately got up and sat down on the bed, and he said, Bhumi, please come in. He said, Bhumi, look, I have become skinny like you. He said, I lost 20 kilos in last 2.5 months. But anyway, now I am feeling better. My jaundice is over now, and now I will start eating some rice or something, and then soon I will get strength. But you know one thing, I don't like to stay here, although they have provided nice room and AC and everything. I want to go back. I want to go back to my Gosala. I want to be with the cows. I want to hear the sound of the cows. I want to see the cows. I want to lay on the sand of Jamuna, and I want to be in the Gosala. So I want to go there as soon as possible. Like that, his consciousness was so dedicated, so sincere in his service and in his love and affection for the cows and for Srila Prabhupada. His dedication, his service, we will always remember and everything. Just with the permission of Dinabandhu Prabhu, I would like to read few lines. You know, when Jayananda Prabhu left this world, in the presence of Srila Prabhupada wrote a wonderful letter of appreciation for Jayananda Prabhu. Similarly, when some of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj's disciples, when they left their bodies in the presence of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he wrote some letters in their appreciation. So I would like to read few lines. Please bear with me. This letter from Sri Chaitanya Math, Mayapur, February 1, 1936. We are pained to learn about the sudden death of your elder brother, the greatly respected Dr. Mahasaya, from your letter dated January 27. Especially his mother will have to suffer grief in her old age, for that is natural. He always chanted the holy name of the Supreme Lord. All of us are getting ready to go to the kingdom of the Supreme Lord one by one. He who is summoned by the Lord first goes first and shows the way to the others. I understand that you are all spending your time grieving at present. This is the consequence of living in this temporary material world. You are an intelligent person. There is nothing to lament for those who go to the eternal abode. They have given up their relationship with the temporary world and have gone to the eternal abode. Know for certain that your distress no longer touches your brother. In another letter, Sri Gaudiya Math, Calcutta, July 28, 1935. I read your letter dated 26 only yesterday morning after reaching here from Bombay. Knowing that Mahasaya has left this world and returned to the spiritual world, we felt extremely distressed. Everything is the Lord's will. The Supreme Lord delivers His own men earlier, and we have nothing more to say about that. At the same time, our incompetence is being exposed, and it is due to our misfortune that we are still suffering. By remembering His service attitude, we can gradually go closer to our destination. We must elaborately write about His life in the Gaudiya magazine. An arrangement is already being made to prepare a block. In some form of service, a fitting memorial in His honor should be organized. In another letter, he says, care of A.K. Sarkar, SDO, Banaras Cantonment, May 10, 1926. I have received your kind letter dated 20th Vaisakh and have noted the contents. I received the news that Sri such and such has left this world. May his soul attain an eternal destination. This is my heartfelt prayer. And finally, one more letter he writes to one of his disciples whose young son, very young son, just left his body. And he consoles, he pacifies. Sri Gaudiya Math, Calcutta, May 29, 1927. This morning I have come to Sri Gaudiya Math with Sriman Paramananda from Jagannath Puri. The moment I got down at Howrah station, I heard that by the will of the Lord, Tota is the name of the boy, Tota has left us forever. You treated Tota as your son. He was a servant of Krishna. He took birth in the house of a Vaishnava. As his parents, you served him. He accepted your service to the extent that he was destined, and after that he left. Although Tota received his body from you, he is a spirit soul, a Vaishnava. His eternal duty is to serve the Supreme Lord. A Vaishnava comes to this world according to his karma, and after spending a fixed amount of time here, he goes to where he is being sent by Baladev according to his qualification. Mahalakshmi resides within Balaram, and within Mahalakshmi resides the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Tota has gone back to serve his worshipable Lord. He was a Vaishnava, part and parcel of Nityananda Prabhu, the predominating deity of the Sandhini potency, and so if you learn to treat Lord Vishnu as your son, you will no longer feel the absence of your son. As the Supreme Lord lived in the heart of Tota, so you have served him. So now you should serve Lord Baladev. The material body of Tota has been merged into the 5 gross material elements. The spirit soul of Tota will remain engaged in the service of the energetic Lord. Your material son has been separated from his material father. He is meant to be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord, and so his real business is to serve him. Realizing that you are not conditioned by Maya, the Supreme Lord will not allow you to become overwhelmed with grief and will bestow upon you his unlimited mercy and power. This is my feeling. Remembering the pastime regarding Shiva's son, study Chaitanya Bhagavat and Shok Sadhana. When Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order of life, he said to his old mother, his wife Vishnu Priya Devi, and the residents of Navadvip, quote, I am only a human being, and I am related to all of you in some kind of relationship. When I am gone, you should establish your relationship with Krishna instead of me, and thus give me an opportunity to serve Lord Hari independently. Unquote. You too will have now more time to serve the Supreme Lord in the absence of Tota. Whatever the Supreme Lord does is for the benefit of all. I am a conditioned soul, so what more can I explain to you? These are some of the statements of Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj. Anyway, personally, I miss Rupa Prabhu, and collectively we all miss him. I am very thankful and grateful to him, and on my behalf and on the behalf of Pundarik Vidyanidhi Prabhu, we offer our heartfelt thanks and Dandavat Pranam to Rupa Prabhu. Rupa Prabhu ki!
We'd like to thank His Grace Bhumi Bhaji Prabhu for revealing the book publishing side of Rupa, also these wonderful letters from Bhakti, and somehow or other I missed our wonderful Gaudavar Pastor Ghosh is sitting in front of me, sometimes this colleague, so I'd like to ask him to please offer his Shraddha over this week.
Few people are left. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namah. The one verse that was forgotten so far. I wrote down some notes that I want to use to address all of you, if I can get to them. Oh my God, they got wiped out. Can you believe that? No, wait, it's there. No, it's not there. What is that? Oh, this is very strange. Wow. I wanted to say a few things. Boy, how did this get wiped out? It's really funny. It's here. but then when I press on it, there it is. Well, some people, Kusha Mataji left. She was, anyway, Kusha, the ladies, Daivi Shakti Mataji also, and Manjari all expressed how he was a staunch brahmachari, and he was, Kurma Rupa Prabhu was what we call in India Maryadi. You know, you heard this word? Dina Bandhu's heard it. Someone who has very strict principles. You know, some of these very staunch caste Brahmins and Smarta Brahmins and even this Vallabh Sampradaya Vaishnavas and other Vaishnavas, they won't drink water from outside of their own well, in their own, you know, that's how strict some people were in this country. Maryada. Maryada means rules and regulations, and Kurma Rupa Prabhu was, during his time here, was known for that. Turns out he wasn't a brahmachari. He was a vanaprastha. Just to clarify, because there was a lot of talk about his wife. Even at the end, he remembered the wife, kind of like the grihastha who never lived a grihastha ashram. But he never really, in a strict sense, brahmachari is a boy studying the Vedas. That's really what a brahmachari is. That touches another point, that Kurma Rupa was unhappy with the direction of the school. And that unhappiness, that direction is still, it's snowballing, it's getting bigger and bigger. Recently we had our bureau meeting in Kanpur, it was 3 months ago. And I spoke out against it in the bureau meeting. You know, that why should this school have modern education? Why are we taking CSR money, you know, CSR, corporate social responsibility, to have the students in the school study, what is it? Does anyone remember? I gotta really rack my memory now. Things that, you know, engineering, whatever. That wasn't the Gurukul that Prabhupada envisioned. In fact, the traditional Gurukuls is a whole other story. There's another thing. Got to get another page up here. So there's a mantra in the Yajurveda that I want to recite, which unfortunately for myself I didn't memorize, but describes Varnashram Dharma and Vedic culture that was so dear to Kurma Rupa Prabhu. So this is the mantra. You may or you may not have heard it. Brahman Brahmano Brahmavarchasi Jayatam Arashtre Rajanya Shuro Ishavyo Ati Vyadhi Maharatho Jayatam Dogdri Tenur Vodha Nadyush Saptir Puran Dhir Yosha Jishnu Rateshta Sabheyo Yuvasya Yajamanasya Viro Jayatam Nikame Nafparjanyo Varashatu Falavatyo Na Oshadayaf Pachantam Yogakshemo Na Kalpatam. So I will, Hare Krishna. Here's the standard translation of that into English. O Brahman, let there be born in the kingdom Brahmanas who are well versed in the Vedas. Let there be born the Rajanya, the heroic, skilled kings, archers and mighty warriors, cows giving abundant milk. This is the Veda Pramanam for the cows with the milk. Oxen, good at carrying. It's not just the cows, the bulls also. in the Veda Samhita, right? Then the swift coursers, industrious cultural women. So the women should be heroic also. May Parjanya send seasonal rains. May our fruit-bearing plants and trees ripen. May our people, Yogakshema, may they increase in prosperity and agrarian culture. Nothing mentioned about industry here. So these ancient thoughts inspired Vaishnavas, inspired Vedic culture, inspired the kings. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. The story of Prithu Maharaj, which is going on at least in the Hindi Bhagavatam. And Prithu Maharaj was for, an agrarian society. So these concepts, Prabhupada clearly taught it, but in the name of being progressive or whatever, I don't know, there's a lot of excuses. There's a lot of people that deviated from this. Or that's what Kurma Rupa was angry at. Everyone loved this man. This was a man who had no enemy. Ajata Shatru, the Yudhishthir was called Ajata, not born, Shatru, enemy. He never had an enemy. I don't know anyone who had any enmity towards Kurma Rupa Prabhu. He was such an ideal person. He was strict, but he wasn't a dictator. He wasn't abusive. To express all of this is also difficult. I saw some of the speakers, they had difficulty expressing. You also feel, when you're sitting in the chair, you're on the spot, and it's hard, you get nervous. It's hard to remember everything. That's why I made my notes. Let me go back to the notes. Kurma Rupa Prabhu, someone made the point that he came back to Vrindavan, who I think it was Daivi Shakti Mataji made the point. We should all learn. Prabhupada did that. Prabhupada preached all over the world. He came back, he left his body. Kurma Rupa Prabhu followed in Prabhupada's footsteps. It's not easy. It's also the will of the Lord to give up your body in holy Vrindavan Dham. And I had written earlier, before anybody said it, that Kurma Rupa Prabhu walked the talk. I had written it in my notes, but then Mataji and both Mataji said it. He was an acharya who taught by example. He didn't have the title. He did not have the official title. The boy from Australia, I don't know if he's still here, he got so emotional, but he made a good point. He made a very good point. An acharya is someone who teaches by example. He may or may not have the title. The title is for preaching. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Prabhupada gave sannyas to, one of them is sitting here. So many people for preaching. If they couldn't follow, Prabhupada didn't say, get out. No, he said, stay. Please remain in this institution. It's difficult. But to actually set the example, Kurma Rupa Prabhu did it silently. Right? There's an advertisement for one of these mobile phones. Quietly brilliant. That describes Kurma Rupa Prabhu. He was quietly brilliant. Like somebody said, he was a great scholar. But, everybody knows him for being a lover of cows, not for his scholarship. But Bhumipati revealed how expert he was in, doing so many, what we would call mundane tasks, but all in the service of preaching, all in the service of the institution. Looks like care for cows will go on. That's a great tribute to Kurma Rupa Prabhu. Not only did he care for the cows, but he inspired people, and 600 cows, I didn't know. 600 cows, that's a huge number of animals. It's not an easy task to feed those animals. Delhi was Hastinapur, and the king could feed thousands of elephants. And now you see that there's no elephants anymore. It's a sad story. How much these elephants eat? Well, cows aren't far behind. I mean, they're not like elephants, but they eat a lot. And so to maintain so many cows, it's not an easy task. Yeah, I wanted to, what happened here? Did I lose something? Kurma Rupa Prabhu is a shining example of how Prabhupada changed us, Malechas and Yavanas, into Vaishnavas. Yesterday, I was walking with my son on the Parikrama Marg, not doing Parikrama, just had to chant rounds and walk to Loy Bazaar. And there was a group of youths, and they saw me, and at that point I was separated from the son, and they said, "Angrez Indian." He's a Westerner pretending to be an Indian. And I thought, these are the guys in the pants and shirts who are abusing unknown people, behaving like football hooligans. Now this football hooligan is not an American, it's a European in the soccer. We are all Americans here, I see. But there's a few European, Mataji, and few Europeans here. So football hooligan is from these soccer matches in Europe where they create a huge disturbance, just for no reason. So this guy was making open fun. He's a Westerner that looks like an Indian. Well, you're an Indian that is imitating the West, and that's the downfall of India. All these pious Hindus are coming here. It's only the ladies who are upholding the culture. It's a funny thing. So Prabhupada wanted to make the whole world Vaishnava. And it's an extremely difficult task, almost impossible. But when we see devotees like Kurma Rupa, and then the other godbrothers who are sitting here, Dinabandhu Prabhu is here 30 years. Gopal Prabhu, you spent how many years in Vrindavan? Quite many years. Hansa Rupa is now a Mayapur Vasi. He spent, how many years you spent? 6 years in Vrindavan, and in Mayapur, it's 4 years. Yeah, you get a lot of credit for that. Prabhupada wanted the foreign devotees to live in India for a significant period of time. So kudos to Banabhatta Prabhu for finally crossing over the pond. And Balabhadra Prabhu, well, you're a servant of the cows, so what can we say? Don't feel bad when I'm saying this, because you never lived in India. Well, you're here now, so that's your great fortune. Prabhupada, I had limited association with Kurma Rupa, but I knew him since the 1980s, although my kids were in the school in the 90s, the two eldest ones. But I knew him as a teacher, and then, well, maybe I had the fortune of giving him a couple cows and a bull, babies, bachara. We call them bacharas, bachadis, calves. But I had limited association. Same with Prabhupada. I had limited association. But I heard Prabhupada speak. And even the people who didn't have any people who didn't hear Prabhupada, didn't personally, there are quite a few ISKCON devotees that got initiated. I even got initiated by post, by ledger, twice, both first and second. But some never even, had personal association with Prabhupada. But by reading his books, they imbibed these teachings. That's more important. And Kurma Rupa was one of those persons. He deeply introspected on Prabhupada's teachings. And that's why he was unhappy that there was a lot of devotees, the ones who caused the disturbances in ISKCON or whoever, who didn't imbibe the teachings. And that caused him pain. He wasn't an angry person. There are these angry people that are angry at everything. He wasn't like that, we know. He was actually as jovial as was nicely described. He was always very blissful, very glib. Is that the word? You know, he was always, you could always talk to him. He was approachable. But he was frustrated with the hypocrisy. But this is the age of hypocrisy, so what can be done? A couple more points. Kurma Rupa Prabhu's legacy will be judged on how many people he inspired to take care of cows. This is what we'll look for in the future now that he's no longer here. But how many people he inspires to actually dedicate themselves when Balabhadra Prabhu, so I think you described how, you know, how many millions of animals are being killed. Was it you or? Yeah. How many Abhiram? Yeah, Abhiram spoke